So in January 2022, Canon announced the EOS R5C, and I pre-ordered that on the 21st of January 2022. Delivery then was on the 6th of April 2022. So that is 2.5, nearly 3 years ago. 2.5-ish years for what I have had the R5C. And I've always had an eye on should I get a C70, and it wasn't quite what I wanted. The R5C was my first Canon cinema camera. I have Blackmagic cameras, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, 6K. I have Lumix cameras. I've originally done most of my video on Lumix. From the GH4 and onwards, I have every single model apart from the G5S. I also have a BGH1. I have a S5 Mark II. I had for stills, I had a Canon 5D Mark III. I tried to move my video work over to Canon with the EOS R, but the 30-minute recording limit was still a massive issue for me. The long-form content is just it's just one factor that you don't really want to think about. Panasonic has removed that limit since as of the GH5 and onwards, so I was already used to that. I didn't have that limit. So the R5C was the one for me that made sense. The R3 was the first one where Canon removed the limit, but the R5C had the best of both worlds. It was an R5 in the sense of a stills camera, and it was a cinema series camera for video with no limit, with cinema raw light. Really, really great. And then in the end of 2023, the Canon RF 24-105 f2.8 LIS power zoom lens came out. Electronically parfocal. Canon really pulled something off that nobody had. Though that got delivered on 19th of December 2023, so I've had it 1 year now. The power adapter then I pre-ordered in January this year. Got delivered in April. And in June then, 7th of June, when the C400 was released, I think it was a day after it was released maybe, I pre-ordered the C400. And it feels like the C400 is... I really like box cameras. The one thing that held me back from the C70 was the odd form factor. And if you look at, as I'm unpacking all of this, if you look at the all the accessories that come with this, for the package that Canon is delivering, this is actually cheap. It's not a cheap camera. It's the most expensive camera I've ever bought, but it's actually cheap. Obviously, the C80 has been launched since with the same sensor, but I feel that even though they added SDI, it's still lacking I/O. It's the I/O that makes the C400 the best deal. So I pre-ordered the C400 in June, and then in November we got a surprise. I actually knew it a couple of weeks before because a sports photojournalist told me that this was coming. The 70-200mm f2.8 IS power zoom was launched. I pre-ordered that. And normally by end of September, start of October, the C400 should have been shipping. But it seems that Canon prioritized the US market first. Basically, I was waiting for my dealership to get cameras in stock, and just didn't happen. And then the 2nd of December comes by, and the 70-200 already has arrived. Like, I had that literally a month ago, nearly a month ago, couple of weeks ago. And today, this parcel turned up, just in time before Christmas. So I finally have my C400. I haven't bought any accessories yet. I have a good idea of what accessories I want. So let's have a quick look. In front, there's like there's two buttons, three buttons actually. Two on the handle and two on the camera. Lots of configurable buttons on the side, as with most of the cameras. The C400 is designed as a single operator camera. Now, the downside of the C400 clearly is the mini XLRs and those little BNC connectors for G-Log sync and timecode. And that will be the first accessory that I'm going to buy to remedy that. So let me have a look here, show you what I mean. The first accessory that I would get is this breakout box from Mid49. It has the rosette mount, so the handle goes onto the camera with that, and then the handle goes on top of that. And what it does, it solves the issue with the connectors, because you get 2 full-size XLR connectors, and you get 2 full-size BNC connectors. So now you protect your connectors, and you don't have to deal with the small connectors there. On top of that, this screw here, this goes on top here, and that's for your microphone holder, the one that Canon provided. You can see when they have it mounted here on a mock-up, it sits nice and snug on the side of camera, and you can actually slide this forward and backwards, so you don't block the switches for the audio on that side. Here's another picture. So there's the switches, and there it is again from the other side. So that is, I figure, a must-have. The second one is their V-mount plate. So it has it has a remote cable. It has this sliding bracket, and then it has the V-mount with fused. It's fused, and you can also set the battery capability so you don't overload the battery, which is great. And let's see here, there is 4 LEMO connector for accessories. You can still feed it from the outside with 4-pin 12 volt. There's a USB connector here, and you have 2 D-taps at the top. So I figured that is probably the best V-mount plate for the C400. And what is really nice about that, when you mount it on the back, you mount the slider first and then you put this on. The reason for the slider is so that you can use it while you're still using your BPA battery. That was one of the things that I really, really like. You can also move the plate up and down so you don't obstruct the connectors. Not that you would be using the HDMI connector or any of that. The SDI connectors are obviously accessible. So, and then eventually I want the Zacuto recoil cage, which is a VCT plate and their cage system, top handle, a holder, and the Z finder, or Z finder, depending on where in the world you are. I figured this is actually one of the best cages. I still have to have a look around, but I definitely sort of settled on this one. I definitely want a Z finder for the Canon screen, because that's I prefer an EVF, and that seems to be a pretty good solution for that. Now, one of the problems with all the cages is obviously that you can't use the original top handle anymore. You can on the Mid49 cage, but you still lose the multifunction hotshoe capability of the Canon handle. So you might as well go with something nice like that. So let me show you. So this cable is obviously the solution for that, where you then you plug that into the camera, and then you can relocate your multifunction hotshoe to wherever you want. But it's quite bulky, so, and I'm not sure that's gonna be needed, because you have now 2 full XLRs in the camera. You wouldn't need the Tascam XLR module then for full XLRs, unless you want to wire 4 XLR cameras off the camera. But that's gonna be a rare case, and I reckon if you wire 4 XLR cameras off the camera, you will probably be having your camera on a tripod. It's unlikely that you're going to be moved around. So Additionally, Canon has already launched a firmware update for the C400 that nobody really has mentioned. Came out on the 16th of December, 4 days before I got the camera. More details, description. Adds support for Firmware, camera to cloud. That's great. Adds the ability to retain previously set exposure parameters. That's a good thing to have. 1.5 times anamorphic discrete added. Great. Digital teleconverter, that was obviously something that was coming, especially with the 70 to 200 now being capable of dealing with the teleconverters. Adds the ability to apply full screen display to an external display according to OSD output setting. Good. Adds 1080p to monitor output signal and SDI output signal option. That's important. Like, I don't know why that wasn't in there from the very beginning, but at least they added it very, very early, because sometimes I have, for example, I have a Z-Finder EVF that only takes 1080p signal, if I recall right. I don't think it actually can handle a 4K signal, so I would have needed that. Right now, I got it in the firmware before I even got the camera, so that's great. And adds camera media to assignable buttons, camera grip, LCD, or remote A. So, yeah. So when you get your own C400, make sure to check. There might be firmware updates already. And the same, actually, the R5C has just gotten a massive bunch of firmware updates. Things like you can, with the new LPE6P batteries, you can actually now record 8K 60 raw light, raw LT without external power. And seemingly 45 minutes of it on a single full battery, which is great. That's like nearly a terabyte of data written. So also that one, and lots of autofocus updates. So well worth checking out. If you have a R5C, I'll probably make a separate video on that. If you enjoyed this content, give us a like, maybe subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.